Geoverse Part 1 To Friend is Human Chapter 12 Epilogue. I opened my eyes to find that I was in a hospital. I could tell by the way the ceiling was going by that I was on a trolley. "Unidentified male found with gunshot wound in James Street," said a voice. I tried to look around, but saw that I was unable to move for all the machines attached to me. "Take it easy, pal," another voice soothed. "You're gonna be fine." As I lay there, I tried to understand what they had meant by James Street. Surely they meant the Everfree Forest, I thought. Unless... The trolley came to a stop and I felt bodies crowding around me. I looked up to see several faces. Human faces. My eyes widened and I spluttered. "Ready?" said the doctor. 1, 2, 3, lift!" With a collective grunt, I was transferred onto a bed. The doctors began shouting for various medicines as my mind drifted back to Equestria. I was sincerely hoping that the girls had used the elements of harmony to their full effect. I laid my head back and let sleep claim me. I woke up slowly, my eyes fluttering in the light. I looked around and saw that I was still in the hospital. The window was open and the sounds of the outside world filtered through. I soon realized that I wasn't in Equestria. I was back on Earth. The door opened and a doctor came in. He walked over to me with a small smile on his face. "Ah, you're awake," he said. "I'm Dr. Hardwick, and you're lucky to be alive. Another inch to the left and you'd be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life." I stared at him blankly. "How long has it been?" I asked. "Since I was shot, I mean." "A few days," replied Hardwick. "Why?" "I dreamt I was in a whole other place," I said, a smile spreading on my face. To me, it felt like I was there for 9 whole months. Hardwick nodded. "Sounds to me like your mind created this world for you as a sort of defense mechanism," he replied. "It just all seemed so real," I sighed, my smile vanishing. "Not to worry, though," replied Hardwick. "You'll be up and about in no time." He left the room, closing the door quietly behind him. I fell back onto the pillows. "I'm sorry for leaving you like that, girls," I said aloud. "But now that I'm back, I'm going to keep the promise I made to Twilight, and make a new friend." I sat in the gallery, sweating profusely. I crossed my fingers and hoped for the best. "Mr. Foreman, has the jury reached a verdict?" asked the judge. "Yes, we have, Your Honor," replied the foreman. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Derek Adams, guilty of attempted murder." I suppressed a cheer. "Thank you, Foreman," the judge replied. He turned to Derek, who was standing in the dock with a shocked expression on his face. "Given that your attack was unprovoked and your history of violence, I believe you are a danger to the public. I therefore sentence you to 7 years in jail," he said, pounding his gavel. I punched the air in triumph. As Derek was led away, he saw me sitting in the witness box. He looked at me with anger before his face dissolved into a look of remorse. A single tear rolled down his cheek as he was led away. I stood up and left the courtroom, deliriously happy with the turn of events. As I danced down the hall, I collided with someone, sending us both flying. We each hit the floor with a grunt. "Hey, watch it!" said the man I'd bumped into. He stood up and collected the papers he had been carrying. "Sorry," I said sheepishly. "I just got a good result in a case, and I wasn't looking where I was going. Let me help you with those." I started picking up some of the papers and handed them to him. "Thanks." He turned to leave, but his eyes focused on my t-shirt. I was wearing a gaming t-shirt. Before I went to Equestria, I had been afraid to wear one, but I remembered something that Twilight had told me. "You've got a negative opinion of yourself, simply because some pony else does." These words were my mantra. By wearing this t-shirt, I was announcing to the world that I didn't give a fuck what they thought of me. That I was who I was. As I thought about this, the man whom I bumped into finished looking at it. "So, you're a gamer?" he asked. "Yes," I replied with a smile. PC and PS3 mostly. PS3 is my favorite, especially Killzone 3. He grinned and held out his hand. I'm John. I took his hand and shook it. Nice to meet you. I'm Geo. John raised an eyebrow. That's an odd name. I laughed. Yeah, it is, but I like it. John smirked. Listen, he said. You seem like a good guy. I've got to get back to work, but if you want to go for a drink one night, then maybe we can talk about our favorite games. Sure, I replied. I gave him my mobile number and he rushed off. Catch ya later, mate, he called as he ran down the hall. I smiled and left the courthouse, happier than I could ever remember. As I walked home, I looked up at the sky and recalled my equestrian dream. Twilight would be proud of me, I said to myself. I stopped walking and looked at the ground. A single tear landed on the paving slabs before me. I miss you all so much, I said, and knowing that it was all something my mind conjured up makes it harder to bear. I continued walking. But that doesn't mean I still didn't learn anything from all this, I muttered. I have a chance to make a fresh start. The heavens opened, and the rain cascaded onto the streets. And I'm going to make damn sure I take it. I sat back on the sofa, raising my arms in triumph. I win again, I shouted, a smile on my face. You owe me $20, John. We didn't shake on that bet, John laughed, so it doesn't count. I stood up and went to the kitchen. Want a beer? I called through to the living room, where John was swapping games. Yeah, mate, cheers, he replied. I grabbed a couple of beers from the fridge, as well as a couple of packets of crisps. I took them back through the living room and tossed one of each to John. Cheers, Geo, he said with a smile. You're welcome, I replied as I picked up my controller. As the game loaded, there was a knock on the door. I'll get it, I said. No cheating while I'm gone. John grinned. No promises, he said jokingly. I went over to the door and opened it to find a delivery man. Got a delivery here for a guy named Geo, he muttered. It seems like a prank to me, but what do I know? No, my name really is Geo, I said. I changed it using the deed poll laws. Now, what do you have for me? The delivery man held up a padded envelope. Just this, he said, holding out his clipboard. I signed it and he handed me the parcel. Thanks, he said, turning to leave. I nodded and closed the door. The parcel had the logo of the hospital I was at in the top left corner. Underneath that were the words, Patient Property. What is it, mate? Asked John from the living room. It's from the hospital, I replied. Apparently I forgot to claim something of mine, and they're returning it to me, though I don't recall having anything on me when I was admitted. John paused the game and came to the door. That's nice of them, he said. Maybe they made a mistake and sent you someone else's stuff? You can eBay that shit. He chuckled at his own joke before noticing the glazed look on my face. He clumsily patted me on the shoulder. Mate, that's all in the past now, he said reassuringly. You're fine and the twisted bastard who did it is behind bars. I smiled. I was just glad I could talk to someone about it, I said. I'm just thankful you didn't think I was a complete nutter when I got to the part about the talking ponies. Like the dog said, replied John. That was more than likely a defense mechanism your mind came up with. And you're my best mate. Why wouldn't I believe you? I smiled and John raised his hand. Mind you, he said. The bit about falling in love with one of them, that was a bit weird. And I certainly didn't need to hear about how you two first, did it. Maybe so, I replied with a grin. But those ponies taught me a lot about friendship. If they could see me now with you, I'm sure they'd be proud, especially Twilight. John returned my grin. So, what's in the envelope? He asked. I smiled, opened the envelope and peered inside. All I could make out was a piece of paper. I took it out, unfolded it and read it. Dear Geo, enclosed is the property you had on you when you were admitted to our accident and emergency department. Should you feel that anything is missing, please contact me as soon as possible. Dr. Hardwick. I stuck my hand in the envelope and felt something cold. I got a hold of it and pulled it out. Upon seeing it, I fell to the floor, clutching it in my fist. "Geo!" John panicked. "Shit, are you okay? What is it?" I opened my shaking hand to reveal a gold pendant, adorned with the cutie mark of a certain purple unicorn. The end. Author's note. And so the rewrite is complete. Thank you for your patience while I sorted this out. I am hoping that the story is a lot better than it was before, as it should flow better and fill in a few gaps.